if you did not sign in, we have an attendance sheet outside at the table right before you walk in. If you didn't sign it before you came in, then if you don't mind, just sign it on your way out so that we can make sure we keep an attendance of who's come to the meetings. Before we get started with our official meeting, I would like to start us in prayer. Father, thank you so much for bringing all of us together for this noble cause. Father, please keep our hearts and our minds focused on the protection of children, and not only in Harrison County, but throughout the state of Mississippi. Father, please guide our steps, guide our actions. And Father, if we have anybody who feels compelled to help, Father, please bring them forward so that they can continue with the mission of the Blue Ribbon Committee. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay. We need to, or I'll consider a motion to accept the minutes from the May 16th meeting, and we'll waive the reading of those minutes. Do I have a motion? Okay, do I have a second? Second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, so those minutes are approved. Jeannie, did you want to just take a minute to read our mission statement for the Blue Ribbon Committee?
Also, I just want to inform everyone that we are being recorded in this room to honor transparency, and you know that Blue Ribbon is totally transparent. We just want to make sure that you all know that we're being recorded for YouTube. So, our purpose and objectives of Blue Ribbon Committee. Purpose: the committee was established by the Harrison County Board of Supervisors by unanimous vote. The committee is established to provide oversight, recommendations, and guidance on matters pertaining to the protection of children in Harrison County, Mississippi. Objectives: to review and recommend policies and procedures that promote efficient and effective governance. To serve as liaison between the community and local government on issues of child protection. To monitor and evaluate the implementation of policies and initiatives addressing child protection in Harrison County. To ensure transparency, accountability, and public participation in government processes when addressing child protection.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is youth court meeting update from Dr. Caldwell and from Beth.
Well, we don't have an update.
Yeah, so we were waiting for all this stuff to start, and
Right.
then we were going to move forward with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I guess should we discuss what our big ticket item was supposed to be today and why it is not?
Oh, yes, thank you for that reminder. We had advertised or made a public notification that Director Sanders from Child Protection Services was supposed to be here today. We received an email late yesterday from Director Sanders, and I'm just going to read the email to you. Dr. Pope, I appreciate the invitation to meet with the Blue Ribbon Committee and was looking forward to being with you on June 20th. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I will not be able to attend. The agency shares the interest of the committee to gather insights, improve transparency, and strengthen collaboration to continue protecting the children of Harrison County and the state of Mississippi. To that end, I remain committed to good faith engagement with all stakeholders in the child welfare system to work together to find solutions for child safety in Harrison County. Best regards, AS. Andrea Sanders. So we did move forward with our open forum that we had at 10 this morning, and I thought there was a lot of good open communication, good feedback from the community and people that have experience with CPS, with foster care, with child abuse cases. And we really got some good feedback, and I think that the meeting was very fruitful, even if we did not have Director Sanders here. And so I just wanted to go ahead and read that. Thanks for the reminder, because I had forgotten. Okay. Next on the agenda, we do have a vacancy on the board. One of our board members had to resign because of other commitments. And so we have received a nomination for Mag Holland to fulfill the open seat on our board. I'll entertain a motion for that. Okay, Lauren, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Mag's resume is attached, and did you want to say anything? I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I just appreciate all the help that y'all did, and that's my life goal, is to help these kids.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate the opportunity.
Mag has a long history of service to not only the community, but children in the community, children in needs with foster care. And she has truly been an advocate for more than a decade for the children of Harrison County. So if there's no discussion, then we'll entertain a vote. All in favor of having Mag Holland fill the open board seat, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Mag, what our procedure is, I will then submit it to the Board of Supervisors, your resume, and at their meeting, July, they will vote on it. So I will let you know, when they vote on it, so. And our next meeting is July 18th, I believe.
You didn't mention I have 10 children.
And she has 10 children.
But how many of those 10 children did you adopt?
6.
Yeah, from foster care.
Mhm.
But if you'd have told me when I was younger, I would have had 10 kids. But you was crazy. Bless.
Okay. All right, next on our agenda is discussion. Judge Alfonso, the first item is the legal opinion from the Attorney General that you've requested.
Yeah, I did request it. It mirrors what you requested and, didn't receive it. I just sent it and I got documents that they had received it, but I have not received a response.
Okay,
As soon as I receive, and just to let the audience know, that is a legal opinion that there's a specific statute that has caused a lot of confusion. It's being interpreted differently. Some youth court judges take the position that the statute says that if a baby is born positive for marijuana, you cannot take that child into custody, and that's being interpreted in some jurisdictions across the board. And so I think it's going to be really important that we get an opinion that says when a baby is born positive for methamphetamine, cocaine, unprescribed fentanyl, that statute is not a barrier to take a child into custody. So I think that's going to be important. So we'll see. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's
right.
come up
And Judge Alfonso submitted that request actually 1 month ago today.
Oh, did I? Okay.
Yes. Mhm. And so
Hopefully
hopefully we'll
July.
hear soon, right? And Judge Alfonso, I'm putting you on the spot too. Do you have a baby DJ law update?
I do. I am really hoping that the committee will pass a motion or resolution that limits it to local and private legislation to start. Y'all, it is just too hard to get something through statewide. And so I wrote Senator Thompson a letter and have talked to him personally. He thought it was such a good idea, it should go statewide. And I said, no, please, let's just limit it to local and private. So what he asked me to do is I told him that I was working with Tim Holloman on some of these issues. And he asked me if I could get y'all to ask that it start out local and private, and that Tim Holloman draft the baby DJs law that, in other words, help him draft what we wanted to say, and that he would sponsor it local and private. So I was hoping y'all would do that because the way local and private works is you have to get a resolution from the Board of Supervisors, so.
So maybe this could be a recommendation that we give to the Board of Supervisors.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you want us to, take what you've written?
To make a motion to make it local and private.
Okay,
To start out, I mean, we need to get something in place.
Right.
And to make it local and private and to request help from the attorney for the board in drafting it.
okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna kind of summarize what the motion would be, and then one of you all can signify that you want to make the motion, and then we'll go through our proper chain. So what I'm understanding is we want to create a baby DJ law through local and private legislation, which means that it applies locally in Harrison County, and that we will work with the Harrison County attorney, Tim Holloman, to help draft that legislation, format it, and then send it to Senator Michael Thompson, who can then sponsor that local,
Board of Supervisors first.
right, yeah, Board of Supervisors, and then send it to Senator Thompson so he can sponsor that
That's
local
it.
and private legislation.
And just so we may have some new people here that don't know, if you don't know what baby DJ's law is, y'all, do y'all understand what it means? Okay. It was really, baby DJ's the reason we're here, really, because of the committee. This child was allegedly very seriously abused, and reports had been made to CPS, and CPS said they could not find the child. And this was a 4-month-old born with significant drugs and then had fractures. And so baby DJ's law would be when there is a report of serious child abuse, like this one was, and the department cannot locate the child, that local and private then intake at youth court or the GAL or anybody else would put out an alert on all social media, help us find this child. It would go law enforcement, but as importantly, really these days with Facebook, it would go into social media
And regular media.
and regular
And law
media.
enforcement.
And it would identify the child, and get all the, a picture if possible. You know, I really feel in my heart that had that happened with baby DJ, that baby DJ would be alive.
Well, and one thing too, to kind of follow up on that is, you know, law enforcement has Amber Alerts, but there's certain criteria that has to be met. And I don't think the general public realizes that people who are abusing their children take steps to hide from CPS, take steps to hide from those who may be investigating. But if we could put the baby DJ alert out on social media, somebody's going to see it, and then we would be more likely. And the purpose of the alert is not to go kick doors down and arrest the parents. It is to save the baby,
Find
to
the
save,
child.
find the child, so that we can put eyeballs on the child and then take whatever steps need to be taken. So that's the purpose of
That's the
it.
purpose, and I think it came out in the workshop this morning that the practice has been just to close out the case.
Right.
Mhm. Right.
If the child can't be found.
So that was kind of our discussion about it. Do we have any other discussion? Do anybody want to make a motion for that without having to repeat all of it?
I
For us
make-
to do the local and private legislation?
I make a motion that we accept that.
Okay, in second? Okay, Beth second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that is done. Okay, letter C is, Robert Jones, who is CPS attorney, was presented with some questions, and he, late last night, I think, emailed responses. Do you
Right.
mind
No, I don't mind
doing
at all.
that? Okay.
Last night, about 8:30, 9 o'clock, I received an email from Robert Jones, who is the attorney for CPS. And we've been asking questions for the last several meetings. And so he finally he's provided his answers. So I think there were some specific questions. If you want a copy of them, I have some copies up here if you would like to have them. So he said, basically, I am very sorry for the delay in providing the responses to the questions posed at the last Blue Ribbon meeting, but this has been a very busy month. If I miss any requests, please let me know, and I will respond as soon as possible. One of the questions, can a person who reports allegations of abuse or neglect who is not in a non-professional relationship with the child receive updates on their report? And he said, no, per statute. I've attached Mississippi Code S.43.21.261, which is the disclosure statute of Mississippi. So it is in here. So that's basically saying that they cannot receive updates. Okay.
That's the reporter.
Huh?
That's the reporter.
Right.
A reporter.
A
And
reporter.
non-professional.
A non-professional.
But then a professional should still be allowed to.
Well, that's my interpretation.
I see that, yeah.
That's my interpretation, okay.
Does a professional include a school teacher, because that
But,
came out
which this is really kind of misleading, because in the state of Mississippi, everyone is a mandated reporter, everyone. So this is confusing to me. You know, it's just not professionals, it's everyone that sees something has to say something. So I'm gonna get some clarification on that, because that is a little bit misleading,
But it's-
really.
Yeah, it's the non-professional. I
Yeah.
think.
Right. Because, what would I consider professional? No, because that would be doctor.
Well, it doesn't define what it is.
Yeah,
Like a
exactly,
doctor.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I probably would know.
Yeah, I guess it's just if you're not a personal relationship.
Right,
it's
right.
a-
Okay, Mississippi Department of CPS's new reporting application. I think they were working on a database that,
A whole new
whole new program.
Yeah.
And so we asked what the name of it was at the last meeting, and it's called Pathways. And we don't know when that's coming out. Is anybody familiar with Pathways in here at all? I've never heard of it. So, but now we know what it's called. It's called Pathway. Okay, My Kids Access. The committee asked who dictates access to the My Kids. This is the Administrative Office of Courts, which is a separate agency than Mississippi Department of CPS. So that's, I guess, where we would start. That's his opinion, okay, but you've already contacted them.
I've contacted everybody.
Right, and there's still no definitive answer.
No, and let me just, for those that are here, My Kids is the system that all youth courts have that interfaces with CPS, and those are all the reports that come in, are put on a computer. It's called My Kids, and it has all the history from youth court that I don't have access to. I mean, I think that came out this morning if y'all were here. So a chancellor does not have computer access to CPS reports or youth court.
Okay, law enforcement reports. Pursuant to Mississippi Code 43-21-353, upon receiving a report that a child has been sexually abused, is the victim of commercial sexual exploitation or human trafficking, or has been burned, tortured, mutilated, or otherwise physically abused, and in such a manner or as to cause serious bodily harm, or upon receiving any report of abuse that would be a felony under state or federal law, the Department of Child Protection Services shall immediately notify the law enforcement agency in whose jurisdiction the abuse occurred. Within 48 hours, basically 2 days, the department must notify the appropriate prosecutor and the statewide human trafficking coordinator. The department shall have the duty to provide the law enforcement agency all the names and facts known at the time of the report. This duty shall be of continuing nature. The law enforcement agency and the department shall investigate the reported abuse immediately and shall file a preliminary report with the appropriate prosecutor's office within 24 hours. Me too. That's okay. And shall make additional reports as a new or additional information or evidence becomes available. The department shall advise the clerk of the youth court and the youth court prosecutor of all cases of abuse reported to the department within 72 hours, and shall update such report as information becomes available. In addition, if the Department of Child Protection Services determines that a parent or other person responsible for the care or welfare of an abused, neglected child maintains active duty status within the military, the department shall notify the applicable military installation family advocacy program that there is an allegation of abuse or neglect that relates to that child. So, did this happen on baby DJ? By their own policy?
Y'all met with law enforcement, didn't you have a workshop with law enforcement, are they receiving these reports?
I mean, I don't think we were allowed to discuss the specifics of that case because it's an ongoing case.
Right, right.
Oh, it's
I know,
fine
but in
now.
general,
Yeah.
did they say they received these reports? I mean, when y'all met with law enforcement?
They do receive the report. This is just when CPS is mandated to report to law enforcement.
Right.
And so one of the questions we had earlier was, who's the determiner of when a felony may be being committed? And if it is the CPS investigator that determines when a potential felony, then what are their standards for determining? Because again, it's left open to interpretation.
Well, they're supposed to report, from my understanding, CPS is supposed to report, I mean, this would fit the baby DJ thing, they're supposed to report to the
Local
local law enforcement.
within 48 hours of receiving the report.
Well, I mean, again, have y'all asked law enforcement if that's being done? I mean, do they
They are reporting, but what law enforcement told me is they don't know what's not being reported. So the felony cases, they said, you know, they've got a decent working relationship with CPS. However, I think where our gap is when CPS makes the determination of whether or not to report a case to law enforcement. And if you'll remember, there was some discussion about amending this specific statute to say that when a report of child abuse is made, that because everybody thinks mandatory report means that they are required to notify law enforcement. They're not. They're required to notify CPS. CPS then makes the determination as to whether or not law enforcement will be brought in. And there's some criteria here that the statute lists on when law enforcement should be brought in. One of my feelings on that was this statute should be amended to mandatory report to both CPS and law enforcement simultaneously.
Well, could that not be a policy change? Because this morning we discussed how difficult it is to get the law changed. Why couldn't, again, that be a policy change?
I think
from the governor?
I think that could be something that we address. It could be,
That's a good idea.
but the statute this is directed to citizens of the state of Mississippi. And so, I mean, we could say, okay, every abuse case that gets called in, CPS must notify law enforcement immediately. They're gonna go back to, it's not required by law. And
Well,
so,
Can I chime in a little? bit?
Yes.
Because there's a lot of misunderstanding about what we're talking about. DJ's the little baby that had
right,
been in the hospital. And I'm just making sure it's the right case. First off, my recollection is that the hospital was calling a cell number that they had for CPS, and that number wouldn't call it. So there's another number where they could call, and that was some miscommunication there. But this law dealing with CPS is different and separate from the criminal laws.
Right.
They're not, when you say pass a law that says they gotta report, there's already a law that says if you know that somebody has committed a felony, you're required by law to report that for law enforcement, or you're guilty of what we call misprision of a felony. That law's already on the books. It just, and when we went through this with David DJ,
Right.
and we said, when we first met in the hospital, said they couldn't report it to law enforcement, they had to report it only to CPS
right,
because of HIPAA, and I said, no, that's not right. I looked up, got on my phone and looked up HIPAA, and guess what's accepted from HIPAA?
right.
Child abuse. And so they made a mistake in not calling, they were trying to follow it, they thought they had to notify CPS. There's always, the criminal law is always separate from the CPS laws. Now, they're in addition to,
Right,
nothing prevents anybody from notifying law enforcement that you believe a felony has been committed, that this child is being abused felony. Law enforcement, you ask who makes the decision, the initial decision is made by law enforcement. And they make the decision whether or not to go to the next step, and that is take it to a judge and get warrants or search warrants. So that's a separate procedure from the CPS law. And it gets a little bit messed up because you kind of have one is dealing with what do we do with this child,
right.
okay? The other is dealing with what do you do with the people that are doing this to this child. My first meeting, they said, you know, we have to report to CPS. I said, that's not dealing with, you know, if you call law enforcement, that's not dealing with what do we do with the child. I said, I understand that, but at least you're getting the perpetrator away from the child, which to me is the most important and most immediate question. And then, once you get the child protected, whether he's in the hospital or where he or she has to go, to me is an issue you can deal with. The most immediate issue is not to allow that child to walk out with somebody that's trying to harm the child.
But Tim, I've gotta just tell you, the hospital cannot be responsible for placement of children.
I agree with that.
They just cannot. So you have a baby, how does a hospital know who's the perpetrator? Who do we release?
Well,
They don't.
if the abuse hasn't happened at that point,
And who are we
unless you
releasing the
consider it
baby
drug
to?
positive.
They don't.
So it's two different, yes, we want them
Right.
arrested, but yeah, we have a baby that's gotta go home with somebody.
There you go, and that's a separate issue, but you can't, I mean, to me, I sit here and these parents came in with this, allegedly with this child, and the child had drugs in its system. And, you know, immediately the child didn't get the drugs in its system, obviously, got the parents, somebody had to be involved in it. Law enforcement comes and they're gonna take care of the parents and investigate who is responsible.
Right.
That's their role. But the child can't go, now, how do you solve the problem of where the child's gonna be housed?
Right, in the old days, we had the shelter, you
Right.
know, and we discussed that this morning, what happened there.
So in today's world with it, we don't have the shelter, so CPS would be then responsible for
Placement.
placement, which they're going to place that child with immediate family member.
If there's one available.
Right, if there's, yeah,
I mean, it's, to me, the hardest thing is, first off, to eliminate the source of what's causing harm to this child. That, to me, is the most immediate thing. And then
Right.
we figure out where the child can go.
and I think from that meeting, Tim, I think that there was a policy when we first started, that that Memorial was going to contact law
Well,
enforcement.
if we got clear from that meeting, that's what would
Yeah.
happen if they suspected.
That's what at least Haley sent me an email stating that you were putting that into place.
And Memorial's not they're not deciding who's committed a crime when they're
Right.
doing that. They're reporting to the people, law enforcement, to determine,
Yeah.
make that determination. And so, you know, by doing that, you at least keep the child away from going home with somebody that causes harm to the child.
Right.
Potentially, I'm not saying they did it. And then the secondary question, and I agree with Margaret, they can't be, the hospital can't house babies, that's not their
Well,
job.
they are in effect sometimes doing that, keeping babies
Longer than, yes.
longer than necessary.
Because we're waiting for a disposition.
And so that has to work with, did CPS come, somebody here from CPS?
They were supposed to come today, but they didn't.
Well, we do have Miss Sanders.
She was supposed
She was
to
not
be here
speaking
today.
Okay. She said she would help, I thought, at the meeting she came to, but
She was invited this morning and this afternoon, and she did not, she sent an email last night about what 9, said she would not come. She had an unavoidable conflict.
Okay, so, I guess, we're gonna have to get clarification on what exactly this is. Also, we asked, Robert to send us the youth court standing order, which is the safety plan that all hospitals should be involved in when discharging a child, baby child, from the hospital. So,
That we put a report in to
Right.
CPS on.
right, so, before they had never been included in the, safety plan, the hospital, who would be the first to know what kind of, what needs to be put in place for that child to be safe, so, and their concerns. So, Robert reported back a month or so ago that they had, the youth court, judge, had approved it and that it was on the way up to Jackson to CPS. And we would like to just have a blank copy of it to see, you know, exactly what it said. So we asked him for it. So this is his response. I cannot provide a copy of the standing order concerning discussing safety plans, investigations with hospital, unless such a disclosure is authorized by the youth court. And he said that request, that he requested it to the youth court judge in Harrison County, he denied it.
And just explain what that means, that y'all weren't asking for any family's safety plan, you were asking
For the
the
document,
form.
the
like
document,
template.
the document. We would like to see the document, because from my understanding, nobody was included in what it needed to be, to include. So we just wanted to see the document to see what it actually said. So it was denied by the youth court judge, Michael Dickinson, here in Harrison County. So, and then they list this statute, which is 43-21-261.
So are they just denying that the Blue Ribbon Committee can see it, or are they saying that we are no longer gonna share that information with the discharging hospital?
I don't know. The Blue Ribbon Committee, at our last meeting, we requested a copy of that because we had not seen it,
Of the standing.
of the standing order. And it had all, you know, gone through the process of, you know, of getting approval from the youth court, and it was in Jackson being approved by the state CPS. So
Can y'all follow up on that? Because
apparently we can't see it.
I'm confused if he's thinking y'all want to see the actual.
No, I don't think he knows that. I think it was denied, but I'll clarify. You know, no, we don't care about it. We don't want to see it. We just want to see the form.
Yeah.
We just wanna see the
That's up to your team.
Yeah, we just want to see the
I
form.
ain't got one now.
Well, I mean, do you understand what, all they want
My
is,
wife, I have a protective order against my wife.
but you understand what I'm saying? I'm not
We have a
asking for
copy
any
of that.
family.
My wife's nice, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, we just want to see the form, so I'll follow up with, I think he was perfect, I think we were perfectly clear. anyway,
Do
so.
y'all think, I mean,
So I hope the standing order actually still went through though.
I think the
We're just not
standing
allowed to
order
see it.
did,
Yeah,
I think they
yeah, we're
just
not
are
allowed
not
to
gonna
see
give
it.
a copy of it
But
to
it-
us
but-
because the
but
youth
is
court
it
has to
gone?
approve it.
And then
How's
he
it
did not
gone through?
approve it.
Because he said that it would still have to be approved by Jackson.
He said, no, he said that we had all, everything had been approved. Everything, yeah, had been approved.
so the standing order was to incorporate the hospital in the discharge summary, in the safety plan.
And what the safety plan is, so that the hospital, we can say, okay, were all of the things, all of our concerns met in that safety plan? Is it going to be a safe environment for this child to go home in? What, are you addressing all of our issues?
Yeah, whatever the issues that they are.
And so you.
Because at the moment, we cannot see that. We are just told blanket, discharge this baby to the parents. Discharge this baby to grandma or whoever they've decided, and usually it's the parents. So we felt that that wasn't enough, that we needed to see what is the plan in place so that we know when this child goes home, specifically from our own babies, that they are gonna be taken care of and that all of our concerns have been addressed, because there's never just one concern. We see multiple concerns over the course that a baby is withdrawing in the hospital. We have a captive audience usually for about a month to see how these parents interact and what's going on.
So I think then our question back to Robert concerning this should be, I understand, or we understand the youth court judge did not approve us having a copy of the template, the form.
Standing order.
However, can you provide the Blue Ribbon Committee with an update on the change in procedure through CPS, including the hospital
No.
on the safety plan?
We just wanna see the form.
No, no, but I
We
mean,
wanna
we
see
also
the-
want to know, because they said it's not taken
Right.
effect yet, so we also want to
We're
know.
unsure if it has. We just
Okay,
have to be able to
Singing
have one.
River,
I'm just saying, how will like other hospitals know if they won't release?
exactly,
You know,
exactly.
no one's
We
gonna-
want,
Or like to ask for that, and all CPS can say is, I don't have to do that, and you can't say, yes, you do.
right,
And you, like, I haven't, there's a standing order where, well, I heard through what, you know, like.
right.
And this is Harrison County specific, this is separate from you guys.
Right.
Yeah. We need to see the form. We need to see what exactly is on the form. I mean, they can't be that hard. There's no names, there's
It shouldn't be
nothing.
anything confidential.
Yeah, there's nothing confidential in
What
the form. I mean,
agencies have access to the form? Like, if you
Just
guys
CPS.
can't have access to
CPS.
it, what agencies do get access?
nobody.
Who's responsible for filling it out?
CPS.
Okay.
And that's part of the problem is that a lot of times it's not
It-
addressing the actual.
Right, it's
concerns.
just a cookie cutter thing, you know, stable home, employment,
Running water.
water, heat, air,
Yeah, not
It's a form
addressing,
that
you
somebody's
know.
already suggested, we just don't know what the final form is.
yeah. Yeah, we've been working on this for what, 6
Anybody
months?
done a public records request for it, to see if you can get it that way?
Good
It's a
idea.
good idea. But now they're gonna say the veil of secrecy.
That's why then you have to look at the public records request act, to see if that is accepted, so.
I
I tell you
mean-
what, y'all, somebody send a public records request to the minutes clerk for Harrison County and ask for it, and we'll try to sort that out.
Yeah, it's just the form they want, they don't want.
We don't
any-
care.
I understand,
Yeah.
I got a
So
problem
tell-
with it.
I don't, and I don't for the life of me, I cannot understand the thinking on this because there's nothing secretive on that form, or at least there shouldn't be. We're just wanting the form to make sure that it addresses the concerns of the hospital, whether it's Singing River or Memorial or whatever hospital.
Somebody do a public record.
Yep.
Court is a county office.
Right.
Do a public records request to the,
Can they
County.
deny it?
he can deny it, but he's gotta come up with a reason that fits within the,
Okay,
public exemption.
get it.
So once you do the request, that's gonna come to my desk, and I'm gonna ask them to produce it, and then
Very
they'll
good.
give me the reasons why it's not produced. And then you have an avenue to address it.
Okay.
I
We'll
I
get
mean,
that
I don't know the reason they won't, other than obstinance, or why you won't produce it, so.
Do they need a motion in that regard?
Yes.
or
We need a
public
motion on that?
records
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. So our
On
motion,
my website, you know how to do that, and you can email it to the minutes clerk, she'll send it to me.
Okay.
And then I'll answer it on behalf of the county, or send it to them to answer on behalf of the county. Then we'll look, if they deny it, we'll figure out if they're right in their denial, and then if they won't produce it, and we think they're wrong, then there's an avenue to address that too.
so entertain a motion for the Blue Ribbon Committee to request a public
records request.
public records request to obtain a copy of the template, the form, for the safety plan, the standing order for the safety plan. All in favor, second, all that, yes, okay.
It might help just to add a little hook to it, if the hospitals that want this would also do a public records request. You can go on the county website, the form, you can fill it out on there and email it, nothing to it, take you 5 minutes. The more that ask for it, the more likely we are to get a positive response. If they're listening, I hope they think that
So that, so they would have to go on the Harrison County website.
You'll see, just do, if there's a list right on the main page, you go down, it says public records request, and you click on it, a form opens up. If you know how to do, you have either got a print or you can fill it out in PDF, if you know how to do that, and then just email it to the minutes clerk. She'll call
Just
me
have that
quickly, because she won't know what it is, but we'll figure that out. If they won't respond to it, we'll figure out why.
Okay, excellent, excellent, thanks.
And I think y'all could still do it for Harrison County, because you get patients in Harrison County. So
And
it's appropriate.
Anybody can do it, you don't have to be from Harrison
The
County.
judge during that meeting that we had, their big meeting, I mean, he stood in the front and was bragging almost about what he, his standing order he passed. So I find it odd that he's just like, well, no, you can't have a copy of it though, but.
Well, do a public records request and help us, and we'll help you get it addressed.
Have you been seeing safety plans at Singing River?
No, only we just make the parents
Well,
send it to us.
Actually,
But
Judge
the
Zorn
did-
has actually
she's
been
been-
taking custody.
Yeah.
So it's been less safety
And
plans,
she's
more.
And she's
More
told
actual
her,
custody.
them, yeah, she's really trying to, especially since she knew we were coming over here all the time, she's really trying to. But for
She
the
doesn't want
other
it
ones,
public.
we just, they make the parents do it, so we just tell the parents before you can go home, send us a copy of the. And they usually will, so.
Excellent, I like that.
You gotta, if you wanna get out, you gotta show us.
Yeah, so I guess our standpoint is, I'd like to see that at least 24 hours before
Like,
discharge, so I can be like, hey,
Right.
this other thing was not addressed, address this before we're
Yes.
going home. While we still have a captive audience.
Right.
Well, yes, with that being said, we'll tell them the kid's going home in a week and then they'll be like,
The day, like,
yeah.
and a week comes, they're like,
What? No,
they told us it was gonna be months.
So then-
We
then
need another
nothing's
48
done.
hours.
Yeah. Over and over.
Okay, did we cover this one already? Well, we did that one.
No, we just got done with this one.
We
we
already
did that.
talked about
Did
my
we do the
kids.
My Kids?
We did.
No, not with
Tim, Tim
Oh,
has
no.
helped me, and I appreciate, Rebecca authorized him to help me with my kids, and
Yeah,
have you heard back from the chief
I've
justice?
played phone tag with him the last 2 days, so we've been missing each other, leaving voicemails.
Okay, well, Robert, the CPS attorney, sent them in writing that the entity to give me access to my kids is, the AOC.
And I sent you an email,
Yeah.
emails from Ms. Sanders.
Ms. Sanders sent Tim an email that said she thought it was a good idea.
Yeah, they didn't have a bit of problem with it.
She didn't send it to me, she said, but I appreciate, so I forwarded that to the AOC during lunch.
Oh, good.
There's some of those, I read through the amendment, the document they have, there may be some statutory problems there that looks like to me may keep it from.
Well, CPS says the AOC can give me access, and I don't want, that's what I wanna stick with.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
We'll see, I'll report back next month.
Okay, good.
It seems kind of silly that you can't get that when you're dealing with the same issues and
Mhm.
can't record it.
Tell me about it.
It don't make common sense.
Okay,
I think
and,
the big thing, going back to the statute, talking about abuse and reporting to CPS and law enforcement, the big thing, I think that's a confusion is, when we're talking about hospitals reporting to law enforcement, hospitals are only, unless they come back to the ER, when we're talking about the inpatient world, you're only getting drug positives, you're not getting the abuse patients. So the patients that fall under that statute are not the babies that we're talking about when we talk about babies being born positive. So I think that's where some of the confusion is coming from. Like, we are not witnessing the abuse and not reporting it. It is not happening yet. Those are
Oh, I
more
see
like
what you're saying.
the emergency room patients that come back, or to the pediatrician's office, or things like that. We are not witnessing that and not reporting that. It is that we don't have that yet. So, to report it, yeah.
Well, on baby DJs, you know, it was reported by the doctor that he had multiple, you know, fractures from previous injuries.
From the pediatrician.
Yeah, from previous injuries. So that whole thing just irritates me, bothers me, and
That's why we're here.
yeah, exactly, it really
I
does.
just wanna make sure that
Yeah.
we're talking about two
Two
different
different, right,
avenues
right.
of reporting.
Right.
I'm not to understand that baby's just drug positive, that's not interpreted as being abused.
No,
At the moment,
not with
that's
youth
the
court,
interpretation.
not with
A
youth
little
court.
bitty baby who can't pick
No.
up
Right,
drugs.
like
No.
they're,
That's part of the problem.
That's part of the problem.
Is the reason for that not being criminal or not being listed as abuse is because the parent who would have exposed the baby in utero is considered to have a mental illness?
No, it's the interpretation of the youth court judge.
I can understand that a baby born because the mama ingested the drugs and so the baby gets in the system that way, but like DJ was 6 months old, wasn't he?
He was dead for 4 months.
4 months, but he had drugs in his system at 4 months. That didn't come in your utero.
No, his cord blood came back at 7 days after birth.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Caldwell can speak to that.
Okay.
But once they alerted CPS that he was fentanyl positive, that's when they looked for him, didn't find him, and just dropped it, and then he was dead
Yeah,
by 4 months.
I can kind of see the problem there, but again, somebody's got to get some common sense about it.
He was already discharged by the time it came back. That was part of it too.
Right, part of the
And,
issue.
and so that's why we need baby.
We
DJ's
need that
law
clarification
to put it
because,
out.
you know, my opinion, you know, I stated it earlier, is that if a baby is born and it tests for any illicit drugs, that's abuse. You know, it really is. Because they didn't ask for it, the mother, you know, did it, and, you know, I have a couple of, we have a case right now that she OD'd while she was pregnant twice. I mean, that's putting endangering the child, you know. So my opinion is that, not your opinion, but my personal opinion is that, yeah, they should be taken into custody.
Jeannie, do you want me to read what it says in? I still have
Yeah, oh
it.
yeah, please do.
So it's Mississippi Code 4321-301. May not be based solely upon a positive drug test of the parent or newborn for marijuana. Can't be taken. The second is, may be based on positive drug test of another controlled substance only if there is a nexus between the use of the drugs and the inability to provide proper care and supervision of the child, and there's no reasonable alternative to custody.
That's ludicrous.
That's not the fact that they're taking an illegal substance.
It's right.
Necessitate, that's criminal.
That can only be.
That's the new
gotta have
statute
another
now.
reason besides.
Well, there has to be a nexus between the drugs.
Yeah, but that's what I've asked for a legal opinion on.
Right.
That can't-
Is
That
the-
can't be right. I mean,
That's what I've asked for the legal opinion on. They're saying that statute says if a baby is born positive for meth, the baby can't be taken into custody. That's the
That's
way
not
they're
enough.
interpreting it.
It's just meth.
recreational meth.
So
People got
that's
those-
what I'm asking for clarification on from the AG's office, because that can't be the law.
I was
A baby
thinking-
born positive for meth, that statute can't say that the department can't take
Well,
it
they're
into
born
custody.
positive with meth, that to me has a direct nexus to abuse. I don't know how you get
And
around
in
it.
some counties, it's immediate, they take the baby into custody, in other counties they don't, that's why
didn't you
we've
say
got-
Jackson County, they immediately take that? Okay, so how can it be so different from
Well, now.
Jackson
Now.
County
Now.
to here?
After we,
That was-
I like, in
that's
the past
very new.
2 months, yeah, because we have been like raising absolute hell and going to the police office, like we've been being
Police station.
psycho. So no, it's only been the last 2 months.
Well, at least now it's clear.
But they were sending home at babies with meth and fentanyl like every day, so that was the norm.
Oh, Oh, they have their judge on board, so I guess we need to get our judge, on board.
I can tell you, they told me in Stone County they take them into custody.
Yeah, they do too. So Harrison County is the only one?
Take the parents in custody.
No, take the child into custody.
So we have
Hancock has been better about it too.
So we have Jackson, Stone, that take immediate action, take the kids into custody like they should, and Hancock County is getting better. So the only county on the coast is Harrison County. That's interesting.
We take custody and no, visits, like the parent
Well, that
can't
should be,
visit
yeah.
until they produce a negative
Drug screen.
Common sense.
Common, yeah, that's how it should be, that's how it always used to be, and I don't know what, well, I do know what happened, but it's totally,
So how do we get Memorial and other hospitals in our county? Will it take the nurses to go to the police department? I mean, how do we get on board?
it has to be it has to be the youth court judge.
We've been fighting with that for so long.
Have you? You Biloxi?
I'm Memorial.
Memorial.
thank you.
Yeah, the police don't have the authority to take the child
No.
away. That's youth court.
So we were going there because also going back to the CPS not reporting to law enforcement.
Mhm.
So we knew that they weren't, but we didn't have any proof. So, and then I asked our, campus police, hey, I want to report this parent, and he wasn't very much help because he said HIPAA.
Mhm.
And then, so we're kind of stuck, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna go to the police station. And
Good for
so
you.
then we went and kind of like
Asked,
talked to
like, are you
investigator
getting
and
like X amount of reports a month? And he's like,
no,
no,
none.
not at all. And so after that, we talked and we kind of let CPS know that we were watching it. Then he's like, we're getting a lot more reports now, so they just weren't sending them.
But I don't
You
know
know.
how to,
And then, we get called to testify a lot at court also, so we will on the stand just straight up say,
CPS did their job.
CPS looked me
or-
dead in the eye and said, I don't, and so that also kind of doesn't look great when you're, for everybody when you're on the stand saying this happening.
So did you say you're called by CPS to testify?
Well, we're called by youth court.
Yeah,
Oh.
The prosecutor.
That's good to know because in our charting system, we have established a place where any safety concern that what we witnessed could be a safety issue. And we feel like as nurses,
You're helpless.
our hands are tied.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if every shift is putting a
Everything is
safety concern. I mean, it doesn't go anywhere. What's the point? And then we
they'll
come back
choose to
and the
talk to
baby's going
someone
home.
on the floor or someone who
Who's
knows
never
nothing
been
about the patient.
And say, well, they didn't have anything. to
Yeah.
do."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's frustrating because you go home and you think about these babies and you worry about them and then you come back. And it's like, well, that baby's gone home. Who'd the baby go home to? The parents. Well, then I've even told my manager, what is the point of putting a safety concern if it goes to deaf ears?
Yeah.
I mean, we're fighting for these babies, but we have no one to fight for
Well,
them.
yeah.
I mean, I know that's what this is
If I were,
for, but
if
it
I were
is
y'all,
frustrating.
if I had the default position ought to be to report it to law enforcement every single time.
I mean,
Whether
that's great to
CPS is
know.
involved or
Yeah.
not,
Can you guys
report
do
it to
that?
law enforcement, because they will at least, when they start seeing that, then they now know
Well,
this person's in this
yes,
house.
and
doing
so
something.
But
the
then-
investigator got in touch with Angel.
Yeah, and Angel's involved.
Angel was
She's the DA.
very, 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 very upset with all of the things that CPS is
And that's
not
why
reporting.
you should report it, just so they'll do two things. One, they don't get notice that this child had fentanyl or whatever in their system, so they know that this house got somebody in there. So they'll start watching it. I mean,
But aren't they saying it's a HIPAA issue and they can't?
no, it's not, HIPAA does not apply to child abuse. And so now you get this issue about whether drugs in your system
Yeah.
is child. I'll defend you on that for free, if they say, I promise.
You're
The
gonna
most
have a lot
ridiculous
of
thing I ever
people.
heard in my life is say that a child has fentanyl in their system, and that's not child abuse, and anybody that says that, I'll be glad to stand in front of a jury of 12 and be tried on that issue, because that's just stupid. And if somebody's watching who's got any sense, I hope you think it's stupid. If not, I mean, mean, it's just, some of this stuff is so irritating because it is so.
Well, I mean, I think we can agree that a child born positive for meth, cocaine, or non-prescribed fentanyl, that's child abuse.
Oh, I have no doubt.
Who all agrees in the forum here, who all agrees that that would be
Yeah.
you know, I mean, seriously, it just, it's elementary.
It certainly
Totally.
warrants law enforcement being involved. And the hard thing about this is law enforcement may not be able to prove child abuse for one reason or another. Just because you don't know, I mean, if the child's born with fentanyl in its system, that's different. If they bring a child in that tests positive after the child's born, you know, that can get in your system just by crawling around, somebody else is using it in the house, but that's child abuse too.
That's child abuse too,
But
that's right.
Let's be clear, if you agree that a baby is born positive for methamphetamine and as a result is in the NIC unit, that is child abuse.
I think it is,
I do
yes.
too.
Can I just add, not only do they have it in their system, but we're witnessing these babies withdrawing. And we have to put them on morphine and other stuff. This baby shakes the whole crib, screaming frantically. And it literally takes nurse after nurse after nurse to console that baby while we're taking care of other babies. And these parents get to go home and not see what we're seeing, and then they're ready. Okay, you fixed my baby, I'm ready at discharge to take my baby home. No, you need to sit there and witness what you did to this baby. Because it takes a lot of meds, depending on how much they take, how often, and all this stuff, how bad it is. It's horrible to witness this with a baby.
Is there not a statute to protect the siblings when a baby is born?
There is
No.
That's also really concerning.
We have multiple
I think
repeat
I
offenders
mentioned
as well.
Well, we used to have a policy in youth court, and Judge Ward did too, that when one child is abused,
They're
the
all
other are
abused.
neglected at least.
They're all
And so they
neglected.
were all coupled together. I don't know what's happened with that. Beth, how many times have we done that?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was provided in the statute, that
We're not
actually
seeing it
if
in
one
schools.
child was abused and
Other, or,
the other children
It's
were
not happening.
neglected, so they
No.
were
Just
covered
only
under
taking the one kid out?
So
Just
in the schools, what we're seeing is that we have children who are coming in who've had siblings removed from the home for abuse or for exposure to substances. And this child lives in the exact same home and is coming back into school and is showing all the signs that you're reporting. Their behavior was already, you know,
Or better
alarming.
yet, the previous children have been taken away.
Correct.
And they come and have a baby in
Correct.
Memorial or in Harrison County, and even though they're positive and have taken 3 kids away already, oh, this baby's fine, it's going home to
Yes.
that
Same
goes
parent.
back to the protective service alerts that are not being done anymore. Did we discuss that this?
Yes, we did, and you know, this,
Protective
This-
service alert, as Beth
This-
knows, it's when we have children in custody.
Right.
Or we have
We
cases with children, and the mom
Right.
is pregnant, we would send a protective service
Right.
alert to the hospital, be on the lookout for
right,
this family.
you and Beth used to do it all the time, Beth used to do it all the time at youth court, I've seen her do that all the time. We would discuss it and say, okay, protective, we know this mother is pregnant, and we need to call the hospital.
Be on the lookout.
Yeah,
We
one
used to
child
get
was
that when I
removed
first
for,
started in the NICU, almost 19 years ago, we had sheets.
right,
Be on the lookout. This
right,
one's gonna
exactly, you
deliver.
did.
We don't have
Right,
that anymore.
right. And if one child was removed for neglect or abuse, all the children in that family would be, you would do a pickup order on all the kids. I
Pretty
mean,
much, yeah.
that, yeah,
Even now too, like if they already have kids in custody and you have a baby born, they're not immediately removing.
oh my goodness.
Even if other children are in custody.
Correct.
Yeah.
You
In
can
the
approach
back-
you,
Yeah,
right?
baby
Yeah,
needs
the
to go.
philosophy
I was just gonna say, I recently had a baby who was born, and we don't test all moms, so we don't have a drug screen, but she had her other 9 children taken, in custody terminated. I tried to call to do a report to be like, I just wanted you, just to safety concerns, just to be, so you're aware. She literally screamed at me and said, I don't hear any reason for a case to be open. I'm well aware.
Abuse has occurred.
Yeah,
This
and
is
she
a
said,
new
this is a
baby.
new child, this is absolutely ridiculous, it literally hung up, so I mean, I ended up doing a written report, but they say that was, I was a psychopath. Just trying to do that.
Because you're fighting for the child.
Right.
Yeah, they claim that it's targeting,
I
that
hope you
it's
document
biased.
that in writing when that happens.
But where does it go?
Well,
That's my
hate
What
to
good
say
does
this,
it
but what
do?
happens is tragic, is eventually something like that will result in the death of the child. And then her email that documented that conversation makes them, you know, responsible to the point that they'll do something about it. Unfortunately, it's a day late, dollar short,
Right.
because they don't do what they're supposed to do, but if these things don't get reported,
Yeah.
all of y'all, I say this to all of you, if you're calling CPS and you're not getting a response, then that needs to be documented somehow, because eventually, and I'm not getting on CPS, I don't know, because I've listened to y'all and I hear what you're saying, it concerns me. But they all say, well, this reason, that reason, they all have excuses, but after a while, when you get 100 complaints, you can't have that many excuses, and something has to be done. But when nobody makes the report, it's not in writing, it's just verbal. So, I mean, I would, if I had that conversation, I'd sit down and send an email, just to confirm I did this, and you told me.
We always will follow up with a report, and then we put in a second report, like, when they say, like, it's not a neglect that they live in a tent and have nowhere to go, I have the next report with her name and number, that she says that's not neglect, I still have concerns. We'll do like 4 on one case.
But if a lady has 9 kids been taken away from her, but suddenly she's gonna turn into a good parent on number 10.
Or they say it's okay to discharge if you're homeless.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can't not.
Yes.
Well, it's in that thing.
It right here.
It's right there,
It
in that,
says,
yeah.
The child is not
It's
neglected
poverty.
solely because parent guardian has failed to provide the child with food,
Basic necessities.
clothing, shelter, to sustain life or health of the child when failure is caused by financial inability or unless relief services has been offered and refused. So, can I mention my current case?
Yes.
I go pick up a kid at 2:30 in the morning from this mother. Where's the other child? She calls me when she's, aware. 4 hours later, did you pick up the older child? I'm like, well, where is he? Living in a building by himself. Has a toilet, has electricity, has running water in the sink. Hey, he's got shelter. He's alive because they had chips in there and soda cans.
And how old was he?
10. 10 years
Who
old.
makes these?
They also,
Well, you can start inviting some of the legislators.
they
to
changed the
meetings. They're
children
gonna pass
over
those
guardianship
laws.
of parents who are in the home and take it from one parent, the parent relinquishes it and gives it to a grandparent in the home who's equally
home.
struggling.
Yes,
It's a generational, and it's all in the same household. Even if the grandparent is not using substances actively, they are unable to prevent the parent to do the right thing. And now these children are in their care, and they can't stop any of it either, and it's all in the same home. It's baffling, Mississippi. What in the world is that?
It's what I'm doing at the guardianship clinics. CPS takes the children, gives them to grandmom that has, it's on $800 in Social Security and says, take care of it.
No funding,
No funding whatsoever.
no mental health supports,
nothing.
because now they've got increased ACE trauma, none of it, just
I
lock
see
it
it
up.
every month.
No car seats,
these children, before they were living in the building, before that they were in a shelter, before that living with a registered sex offender.
And I can confirm that.
And are those children gonna go home, you think, next month? Your father
Well,
told
she
us?
hasn't found home yet, or a living condition, but,
apparently you don't need that.
well, that's
She's-
true,
She's
that's
gonna,
true.
she's
Well,
gonna get it from her parents. She's gonna get it from her parents or her aunt or whatever.
So one of the other things we discussed this morning was talking about drafting policy changes with the
I
governor.
think that's so important.
Yes, I do.
As positive of something that we can try to do. And we can start with children that are born positive for drugs. So we had sort of discussed getting a panel together of experts in the field, medical professionals and everything, and drafting a plan. What should we be doing with these children that are born positive for drugs, and present that as what, from the committee of what.
Yeah, that was discussed this morning. I think it's a great suggestion, is to make it a policy change from the governor down.
I think we discussed the medical side, and the educational side,
As
and the
separate
communication,
policies.
and the
It sounds like the
communication.
court side may be getting fixed.
Yeah, we
their
need to have
emails,
youth
but
court.
we could still include that if it doesn't work out that way.
So if you, anybody that's in the medical field or educational, that would like to volunteer, just let us know. We can't, we can't have a whole room, but, if you, would like to help us work on some of the policies to present, just let me know.
And excuse me, that's why I wanted Tim here, because he can specifically help y'all on those.
Right. Okay, thank
I'll
you.
tell you what we talked about before you got there.
Yeah, thank you.
Just need to focus, the more you hit somebody like the governor with, why
Right.
it is less
No,
change.
that's right.
Right, narrow it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, with an actual plan already in
Trail
place,
on
yeah,
what you're-
this is the plan, this is what.
I think the plan ought to be, from the medical side that we discussed. So when a baby is born
Right.
positive for these drugs, this, and this are done.
Period.
Yes.
It needs to be simple.
Very simple.
Very simple, okay.
And then we had to kind of vote on that if we wanted to go ahead,
Yeah.
I guess. and do
Yes,
that.
so, and I also want to, just before we take a vote on this, Mr. Holloman, I think you're exactly right. What we present to the governor needs to be narrowly focused, clean cut. This doesn't mean we don't think other issues that have been brought before the committee are not important. We do. But part of our responsibility is to adhere to the mission for which we were created and to kind of stay true to that and handle that
First.
in priority and then work our way. So I just kind of wanted to just make that blanket statement that
Right.
we've had a lot of issues that have been brought forth. It doesn't mean we don't think that they're not important, we do. It's just that we have to prioritize this to stick to
Start and then.
the
vote
mission.
on it,
Right,
we
and
Yes.
we've been working on these like 3 different separate issues since July 1st of last year.
Yeah, for a year.
So, we've got to make sure, because that has to be fixed. CPS, youth court,
Yes,
those policies and procedures has to be fixed in order for the children to be safe.
Right.
Here in Harrison County. I wish we could, take what the youth court judge is doing in Jackson County now, and move it over here. But, this has been a year in the making, gathering all the information and talking, and we've made little strides, but now is the time to really push forward on policy now.
So I guess once we've come up with our policy, I assume we present it to the Board of Supervisors first, since we're
Well,
commissioned under
I'll
I
that.
think
give
we
it to
should
Tim
send it to
first.
Tim first.
Tim
Yeah.
first,
I'll
and
help
then,
y'all, you
Yeah,
send it
to
to me,
draft
we'll
it,
work on a
yeah.
draft of it.
Mhm.
Once it's drafted and we think we've got a final product, we present it to the Board of Supervisors. If they agree, then we go ahead and move it forward to the
The
governor.
board to pass a resolution, send it to the
Right.
governor, might care a little bit. Y'all could pass a resolution to the board. and the board
Right.
could pass
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
thank you.
it. Might carry some weight that way.
Okay, so all of that in a motion that the Blue Ribbon Committee is going to, upon the advisement of the professionals in the field, medical, educational, that we will work together to draft, policies, send that to,
The board attorney,
the board attorney, and then go forward through the process from there. So that's our motion. Okay, all in favor,
First
say,
and a
oh yeah,
second.
first and second? First, second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that
Somebody's gonna
passes.
they already did the public records request, right?
We wrote that down,
Yes,
yeah, we
we
did a
already did
motion
that.
for that too, as well. Mm-hmm.
Just make sure when you email it to the minutes clerk to copy me on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
I know sometimes we get frustrated because we're not making progress as fast, but I've been approached by several advocates for adult protective services saying, please get a committee formed for adult protective services like the Blue Ribbon Committee. So I don't know, adult protective services.
Right.
Necessary too.
It is, I can attest to that.
Yeah, we get nowhere.
We're nowhere.
I will say this to that, because that's a pet peeve, I recently had an issue where a notary met this guy in the parking lot and notarized deeds and notarized, power of attorney for a bank. The poor lady was not there, didn't witness it.
It's
Went to the
rare.
bank, withdrew $25,000. Fortunately, did not get the deed file because, the bank got suspicious afterwards and reported it. By the time I got in it, I was so angry when I called the police and said, this notary needs to be prosecuted. And so they went out and arrested her, but
How can we get a committee, for experts in adult protective services for?
I mean, same way this one was created, I'm just not sure.
Okay, I'm gonna hit the pause button on establishing
Well,
another
if
committee.
Y'all, not that I wouldn't want y'all on the committee, but y'all are really children, I mean, I'm not asking y'all to do another thing.
Yeah, I agree with you because, like, all of our conservatorships are vulnerable adult cases. I mean, yeah.
Mhm.
And it's, I just got a call, I get calls all the time from people on the, reporting the
Exploitation of.
yeah, and they call APS and they get nowhere. They get the runaround. They call APS and they get nothing. They get no answers at all. Cindy, I'm sure you've witnessed that.
Cindy is one of the ones that.
Yeah, so Cindy is from Memorial. She's a,
They're in a safe place, we don't need to do
they're-
anything. Or the other day, we had one that a relative had got her the patient's driver's license revoked, stopped her social security check, closed her bank account. And she had no documentation to allow that to happen, but it happened and APS would do nothing.
I guess we're,
And that's just one.
yeah, just one of them.
Okay, let's
Yeah,
move
that's
on.
That's a situation where report it to law enforcement. I mean, the lady, when I found out about this notary notarizing the document, because that's what allowed this guy to do this, I called, because I was mad, because the notary shouldn't do that. But the notary got arrested too, he got arrested, the guy that did it, but she got arrested too. You gotta call law enforcement or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna move us along. Our next item on the agenda is the Memorial Hospital report. Cindy's brought copies for us. Did you wanna go over that?
Well, the most recent, which was the month of May, there were 11 CPS cases reported, and then for the month of April, there were 13. So for the January through May, we've had a total of 76 cases reported.
And out of that 76, Cindy, do you know what has happened on any of those reports?
Not off the top of my head, but since we started this committee, we've got a much better relationship with CPS. We have a weekly call with them for our cases that are reported. We're seeing CPS show up at the hospital on cases, especially the ones that are gonna take custody and, more timely situations.
Well, good.
So it's a lot better than it was a year ago.
Okay, well, that's good. That's a positive thing.
Good. And we have numbers to call if we need.
And that was the big
something,
thing,
and
was
we had nothing
numbers.
before. So
Prior
it's
to that,
just
if it
a lot
wasn't 9 to
better.
5, Monday through Friday, if it was evenings, if it was weekends, we had no way of talking to someone from CPS. Whereas now we do. Now we have an on-call supervisor.
We've made some significant progress.
Good.
Okay, and as far as Memorial Hospital, we have safety plans. Are you all not consulted on the safety plans yet? Or are you being given copies?
I don't know that we've had any with official safety plans, or more that just said discharge home and we'll follow up. I don't think we've had any official safety plans recently.
I haven't seen any.
Okay.
I mean, I haven't seen anything documented about a safety plan being formulated before the.
Okay.
And that's kind of, I don't know if that's gonna become the new workaround or.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And what is the new report concerns? I don't know what those
Well,
words
we just
mean.
want to know if there's any other concerns that you guys have.
Okay,
That's basically it. No?
okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're at the portion of our meeting where we open it to the audience for any comments or questions that you may have. Now, I'm going to be the timekeeper. We're limited to 3 minutes per person. So don't get your feelings hurt if I say thank you and you're in mid-sentence, because I will ask you to sit down. Okay, do we have anybody in the audience who wants to either make comments or ask questions? I think I scared everybody. It's just been a long day. Okay, our next meeting is scheduled for July the 18th. We normally meet here, but it's my understanding that this room is going to be occupied with budget hearings and things. And so, we don't have, we
Well,
may be in Biloxi, but just keep an eye on our, public notification?
Yeah, it'll be on it'll be on the Harrison County website where the meeting will be. I'm gonna try to get it at the Biloxi, boardroom. Yeah, boardroom. But July and August is budget hearings for Harrison County, and so this room will be taken up, so I'm pretty sure we
They have a
can,
nice sized room, EMS too.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that.
yeah, they do. But it might be kinda nice to have it in Biloxi for the Biloxi audience.
Mhm. So, okay, we will entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned.
And
Thank
thank
you
you
all
all for
so
coming.
much. Yes.